Okay, I'm gonna double check and make sure this is good. Okay, I think we're live. Let me double check really quick to make sure that it is set up on here and everyone can hear me. Fantastic. Everything is good. Alexis, welcome in. Thank you so much for taking time out of your super duper busy schedule to be here with us, share your story. So thank you again. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. So yeah, I think we should just really just start off at the beginning of everything and just kind of tell us a little bit about, where you even, started this journey, what you were
Yeah.
struggling with, kind of just giving some background into how you were just able to kind of develop this whole kind of, new persona as you've just been able to achieve these amazing, results in such a short period of time. So kind of just start from the beginning, share a little bit about where you were before.
Yeah, I think I'll start with probably pandemic. Pandemic Alexis, that summer, I kind of just went through like a weight drop and it was nice. It was great.
Hmm.
Um, don't know really where it came from. And then it kind of had the reverse effects going in post pandemic. And so definitely saw a huge weight gain. Um, as I started a new job and it was spending more time at my desk. I wasn't walking around as much as I normally had been. Um, I like to say it was like the happiness of being somewhere new, and just like eating with happiness. Um,
Hmm.
and kind of was like that for quite some time. Started to really experience about a year ago some health issues that were a little concerning. And a lot of the comments I was getting back was like, well, you've experienced a weight gain. This could be the
Hmm.
reason why. And so it really got me to really stop and think about, okay, my life choices. And so I would get on these little kicks of, okay, I do really well. And we'd start going to the gym, me and my gym buddy. We'd start going and we'd be consistent. And then we'd have that one day where it'd be like, I really don't want to go today. I
Hmm.
really don't want to do that. And we would lose that momentum. I would lose that
Hmm.
momentum because then it would be a ripple effect of, oh, we'll do it tomorrow.
Hmm.
And we'd do it tomorrow. And that tomorrow never really came for us.
Hmm.
Um, and so we'd go through like a couple of months of being really consistent, going to the gym, but not really eating right. And so,
Hmm.
kind of, and not really knowing what to really work out and what properly to do. So turning to like Pinterest workouts
Oh,
and
wow.
TikTok workouts, things like that, that were great. And we did them, but they really
Right.
weren't necessarily targeting like the specific areas that we really needed.
Hmm.
And so kind of really, like I said, we'd went through that. And so this last time before I decided that I wanted to really be serious about my health, I started to do a challenge. It was a
Hmm.
75 hard challenge with my coworkers, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't be consistent. I couldn't,
That's a super duper
yeah,
common challenge for most people too. Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of explain exactly what that is for some of those that, don't really know what 75-day hard is.
Yeah. 75 hard is a challenge where for 75 days you really restrict yourself. You're not eating, the foods you like to eat. It's completely, your plain, boring chicken, rice, and grains.
Ugh.
Um, yeah, exactly. There's not really a calorie deficit to it.
Hmm.
You're working out, but there's no form of like what you should be doing. You can follow what
Hmm.
you find online, things like that. Obviously, drinking enough water, getting your 10,000 steps. But it's very restrictive. No alcohol, no fun. And it's an everyday thing. And so it becomes really hard because you'll start and you're like, I'm really excited, I'm gonna do it. And then by
Hmm.
like day four, you're like, if I have to eat chicken one more time,
Right.
I'm not gonna be a happy person. Um,
Right.
and so that's where we were. It's like we started and, I started and, I was like, okay, I'm really consistent. And then I had that one day where I was just like, I really want a slice of pizza. I really want a glass of
Hmm.
wine. I want to go out and I want to enjoy life. And it
Hmm.
became the back to that pattern of, okay, if I'm messing up right now, let's start again on Monday. And then Monday
Hmm.
would come and it was like, no. So that's when I reached out to you. So, and that's where we are today.
Yeah. I think that, it's a really good learning lesson for a lot of people that think that something like that is the answer,
Yeah.
right? throwing themselves, engulfing themselves into like this entirely new area where it's just you're surrounded by complete change. And you think like, okay, like I'm surrounded by it, there's no way I can fail. I've
Yeah.
committed to it. But it's so restrictive. And I think that's where most people really just don't understand the difference between like the lifestyle and like a diet, right?
Yeah.
Like the diet is so short term and it's just like so significant that at the end of it all, it's like, yeah, you do want to have the pizza and the wine and everything. And then it kind of spirals out of control from that point, right? And yeah, it's a super common problem that I think most people struggle with too, like different, degrees, right? Different levels, different degrees. And so, yeah, it's so crazy how often I hear about people trying to do 75-day hard. And I'm also like, okay, so like after you're done, let's say you do it like 100%, like what do you do afterwards? Like
Yeah.
what's the next thing? Is it just like constant 75-day hard challenges after that? And then how sustainable is it? Right? Which is really the biggest question, for everything, right? So my next question to this is, what were some of the first, steps that you did start to take that you
Mhm.
really started to feel like you were actually making headway, you were seeing results, you were gaining progress? What were like really just some of the biggest and some of the first biggest needle movers to
Yeah.
your success? What was some of the biggest things that were really, allowing you to see results very quickly?
It was the portion control and the weighing my food. That was
Hmm.
such a big adjustment for me. Um, I think it's continuously a conversation we have about like your protein. Let's talk more about protein and let's incorporate my protein.
Hmm.
But that was my biggest struggle in the beginning was like I didn't know that I wasn't eating enough protein. I didn't know
Hmm.
how to properly, put together a healthy, well-balanced meal.
Hmm.
I wasn't eating breakfast. I'm gonna have a coffee in the morning and that's gonna supply me until lunchtime. Then I'm going to overindulge at lunch. And then for dinner, I may or may not have dinner. I may have a girl dinner. Um,
Gotcha.
it wasn't fueling my body to be able to do and burn the calories that I needed to. So really just focusing on that and weighing out the food because for me, I was just like, okay, yeah, this looks right. And then it's like you weigh it out and it's like, that's actually not enough or that's actually too much.
Hmm.
That was one of the biggest contributors to, watching the pounds kind of drop. And then just being consistent. I mean, consistency for
Right.
me, like having the energy to go to the gym and making sure that I went was
Hmm.
a huge thing for me, especially in the beginning, because I was just like, we were doing new workouts that I'd never done before. And I
Hmm.
was really hesitant and very nervous. And I was just like,
Hmm.
okay, I have to go. And this is going to make you feel better. And slowly I started to really enjoy, and I do really enjoy going to the gym now. And it's like,
Incredible.
okay, it's something I look forward to, something I, you know, have a gym partner and they go with me. And so that's was
Hmm.
another thing was having an accountability partner outside of just having you.
Huge.
Having somebody that goes with me, but also finding that confidence in myself to go alone. Those are really big factors in doing that and having fun with, being at the gym and the food I was eating. That was extremely important for me and something that I had to really wrap my mindset around in the beginning of like, you can do this and you can have a lot of fun doing it.
Absolutely. And I think using the word fun is crucial to this,
Mm.
right? Like you've got to experience and develop ways to have fun with it. And to your points with all this, most people might think going to the gym, weighing food, trying to find an accountability partner and go through with this routine is scary,
Yeah.
right? Or it seems a little bit like, taboo. It's like, okay, I'm weighing my food. That seems like that's way too much. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
How did you kind of reframe your mind and for those that might be in that position experiencing those exact, doubts and beliefs, like overall, how do
Mhm.
you feel like you were able to make those things fun and what is your experience with, being in the predicament of being scared? What are some things you did and how did you kind of like change your mindset from the whole weighing your food thing? Because,
Yeah.
I tell everyone like most people are so scared of doing things like that. They think it's just like that seems just crazy. Like you have an eating disorder, but
Yeah.
it gets you really clear on just how much you're consuming with specific food. So how are you able to develop just your overall mindset around that? How were you able to overcome those challenges specifically? Was there anything you kind of did or wrapped your head around when you were in that, position to overcome those sort of, you know, very, very common beliefs about those certain things?
Yeah, I mean, mindset is everything. And I think I've heard you say that a lot. And I know I've reminded myself a lot of
Hmm.
that. Because in the beginning, weighing my food I was like, that's excessive. Do we really need to do
Right.
that?
Right.
I was
100%.
like, never done this. And getting a good scale that was going to work for me. Because I
Hmm.
was just like, I don't know what this does or how to use this.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess the first step was, okay, just trying it out and being open-minded to it because I was like, this is something different. I'm taking a risk.
Hmm.
Investing a lot in myself and into this
Hmm.
program. And in order for me to do that, I need to have a more positive mindset about the things and the steps that I'm taking and I'm doing.
Hmm.
And so a lot of that like was like, hey, I would look at the portions in the beginning and I'd be like, that's not enough.
Hmm.
And I used to have to remind myself, be like, okay, hold on, hold on. Is are you looking, with your eyes, not really with your stomach? So why don't
Hmm.
you eat your food, you know, do what you have to do, and then at the end, you can determine whether or not that was a successful amount that you can consume, or if you think you could have ate less or you could have ate more and then
Hmm.
go from there. And it was a lot of trial and error for me. I love pasta. I love Italian food. And so I was just like, when I saw my pasta serving size, I was like, no, this isn't going to work.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it kind of moved past that. I was just like, actually, this is perfect for me. I'm not overindulging. I feel better after I do it because I
Incredible.
don't feel bloated. I don't feel like I've overconsumed. It's just the right amount of food.
Hmm.
In terms of the gym, I've always had a really love-hate relationship with it.
Okay.
There my periods where I was like, oh, I love it. I'm going, my endorphins, it was, and then I'd go through the periods of like, I don't want to go. I don't want to wake up early in the morning and go. I don't want to
Hmm.
go after work. I just don't want to. And it was a lot of like self-conscious of oh, people are looking at me and people are judging.
Hmm.
And I had to really get out of that mindset of like, nobody cares what you're doing when you're at the
Right.
gym. And if they're looking at you, they're probably impressed with how much you're actually, lifting, or they're making sure you're okay and that if you need a spotter. Um, and so for me, it was a lot of getting out of that and having that accountability partner really helped for me, but it also gave me the confidence to do it by myself. And so I find myself a lot of the times now even going and
Hmm.
doing it alone. And it's a mindset of like, this is just part of my routine. I'm doing it. Um,
Hmm.
and it's also, getting into the mindset of it's not just you being physically active, it's also a mentality like of this helps me mentally.
Right.
And it's my space to kind of just go and relieve the stress of my day, relieve the stress of my week, and kind of just be like, okay, that's the end of that day. I, come home, shower, go to bed, and it works for me. And so
Yeah.
really just kind of changing the way that I saw everything that I was doing.
Yeah, that complete mindset shift is, I think most people think that that's going to happen overnight too, but it's been a bit of a process for you, just like you mentioned. You kind of had to sit in this uncomfortable zone.
Mhm.
You knew this was going to be uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you trusted the process,
Yeah.
right? You trusted it deeply. And I think that's powerful to what you're saying. It's like you've got to get yourself to a level where you just are so deeply entrusting of yourself that this is going to work. You have a full on belief that this is going to work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's important to note that that sort of level of uncomfortability, it never really kind of goes away,
Yeah.
right? And that's just the way things go, right? It improves over time,
Hmm.
obviously, right? But, for anyone watching, it's that sense of, you're always going to be, especially if you're going to a new gym, right? Or you're traveling someplace else and you're going to another gym and it's just kind of a different space, a different environment. But I always say, like, hard things, achieving great results are reserved for those sorts of people putting themselves in an uncomfortable position.
Yeah.
I
One.
always say that. being able to achieve greatness, being able to achieve these amazing things are reserved for people that put themselves in uncomfortable situations. And that's just the nature of it. But I think also too, like you've helped yourself in the sense of not only being able to be coached, but also telling your friends, telling your family members, right? Or, whoever else is involved, right? But specifically your friend, right? You're bringing someone along with you for this journey, right? You are now that positive output for them.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier going with somebody. Having a
Yeah.
community, having that support is amazing. It's so important. I even have friends, my fiance, other family members I go with to the gym because it's easier for me. I don't always want to
Yeah.
go. So yeah, it's incredible to see just kind of how quickly your mindset has kind of shifted in just, a few short weeks. So it's incredible to see that. So talk to me like when you think about what's next and
Mhm.
just talking about your overall goals,
Mhm.
generally speaking, as you kind of think about these next few months and making sure that what you're doing is sustainable for yourself. People struggle with being able to find the time, continue to make the time.
Yeah.
People struggle with the sustainability, the longevity with everything. How will you manage to implement some form of an approach with that to help yourself in this situation, in this journey? Because it's only been 10 weeks. How will
Yeah.
you be able to set yourself up for success in the long term? How can other people benefit from some of the things that you've been able to kind of create for yourself with that?
Yeah. I think for me, it goes back to that investment piece. Like I wanted to change something about myself, and I invested the time, the energy, and the finance into it. It's not an easy process, and it hasn't been easy. Um, but it's been the most rewarding. And I think that's
Hmm.
what really gets me and makes me want to continue to push myself forward. I'll say that I'm someone that's very competitive in nature, and I'm most competitive person was with myself
Hmm.
and becoming a better version of myself. And so when I think of like long-term goals, like I'm only, gosh, I'm not even halfway there to where I want to be.
Hmm.
um, and so it's kind of like, okay, you got to keep pushing forward, you got to keep going. And it's being open and having those conversations, especially like, I think of the holidays are coming up, and it's like, you
Right.
know, you're going to go home and you're going to eat more, and you're going to, there's going to be things that you don't normally eat on your daily basis because it's the holiday season. And it's like, okay, like
Hmm.
that's okay. What is the work you're putting in beforehand, and what are you going to put in afterwards to make
Love
sure
it.
that you continue to maintain the success that you've had? And so for me, like I have people tell me every day, like, you just look happier. And
Hmm.
that's, I'm like, okay, I'm getting to the point where I want to be. If people notice just in terms of like my mood and, I'm the type of person that like, if I don't see results right away, like it can be a little sad. And it's like, but at the same time, I'm like,
That's
no, no,
everybody.
no.
Yeah.
You're getting stuff done, and you're doing it. And I think
Hmm.
just continuing to have that positive mindset of like, you're doing this and you can continue to do it. Um, and I go back to, like you said, there's a difference between it being a diet and a lifestyle.
Hmm.
Um, with the gym, it's become so part of my routine. I tell people, I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, you want to do something, that's great. Let's work it into my schedule because I got commitments to myself, and
Awesome.
what I got to do for me. And then we'll figure out the rest, and we'll get it done and still have fun and still be active and social, outside of, my what I'm doing for myself with my health.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you went to like a festival yesterday and you spent some time with friends and did something
Yeah.
that's enjoyable. And yeah, it speaks to your level of attentiveness and your level of priority as you're in this season,
Yeah.
right? Not specifically the holiday season, but the season of you being in this journey, right? It's a short-term thing, right? You're at this point, okay, I'm in this journey of reaching these specific goals for myself. But it's also understanding that the approach that you're having now won't necessarily have to be the approach that you're doing later, right? It's a short-term sacrifice. It's a short-term commitment, right? It might take those extra steps to get to where you want to go, but ultimately maintaining them, we don't always have to be as strict,
Yeah.
right? And restrictive and right. It's more about the restraint to that,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that's really important to think about as you're mentioning, you're developing these sacrifices, especially as the holiday season approaches. But I think for other people that might get kind of scared of that, like, well, I want to do all these sorts of things. Like, it's not forever,
Yeah,
right? It's not
definitely.
forever.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about it. Like, once you've gone through this journey, maintaining it is a whole different approach, right? And then you set your new challenges down the line and you focus on different goals and, other things like that, right? Obviously. But I think well-roundedly, everything sounds incredible. But I think people would also like to hear, what are some of the challenges you face? What were some hurdles that you feel like you have experienced throughout the course of this journey so far? How did you overcome them? I mean, how are you still maybe perhaps still struggling with something now? Like, what are some things that you're struggling with? And overall, like, how have you been able to approach those certain circumstances when it came to those specific challenges?
Yeah, I think my biggest challenge is my protein intake. And to this day, it
Yeah.
still is. And it's something I work at every single day. And it's
Mhm.
going back and reflecting on it. I love that I can food journal and see in real time, like, okay, this is where you're at. Where can you change? Specifically, like today, my lunch and my breakfast was a little bit lighter on the protein side. So I know that,
Mhm.
hey, let's get something that's a little bit more protein focused for dinner. Um, Things like that, have been a struggle. I think also, finding the consistency in eating the same meal every day,
Mhm.
like meal prepping.
Mhm.
At one point, I was like, I don't know if I can do that, have the same food every single day. And I was like, but you can. It's about
Mhm.
making it fun and making it
Mhm.
different. So, um, I think back about things you've said, like sauces. Sauces make all the difference when you're eating the same food every day.
Yeah.
Uh, so, being fun with that and being creative. So it mixes it up a bit. Because that was definitely a challenge. Um, I'm not always positive. That's in the beginning, there were times when, I looked at the scale and I was like, this is not going the way I wanted to, or there was a period where it was stagnant in terms of
Mhm.
my weight going down. And I had to really change my mindset. That was really hard to say the scale isn't everything. You know,
Right.
you you're putting in the work, your measurements are showing a change, like your pictures are showing, your progress pictures are showing a change. And just because the scale says one thing, it doesn't mean it's everything. So
Right.
that was definitely something I struggled with in the beginning. And now I'm a little bit more like, it's okay. I see the number and I'm continuously working towards it and working towards my goal. And that's not going to be my defining moment because I'm still doing everything I need to be doing for myself.
Right. You're definitely not letting your foot off the gas,
Yeah.
and that's something I wanted to make really important. I remember at the beginning, like, man, I wasn't very happy, seeing the scale
Yeah.
stay the same after a week's worth of work. And I was like, you cannot let your foot off the gas. And then boom, what happened that following week?
Yeah.
It was like another 3 or 4 pound drop, right? It's just it's crazy how our bodies react to like stimulus.
Hmm.
Sometimes like you can, and I say this to people too, you can on paper do everything correctly. You can have the perfect intense exercises, the perfect nutrition, go through all of these, scenarios, have the perfect sleep, and you can still at the end of the week be the same weight or even see the scale increase a little bit. There's just
Hmm.
a ton of stimuli. But I think the most important thing for most people is like you can't look at this little small, slim period of time. You've
Yeah.
got to really take the average over a long period of time.
Yeah.
For example, right? The 10 weeks that you've been able to accomplish this, not the
Mhm.
1 to 2 weeks you were staying the same weight, right? It's just, we just need more data, more long-term information. And you can't let your foot off the gas whenever it stays the same or slightly increases. So I think that's yeah, to your point, the attentiveness to be able to keep your foot on the gas and keep going is
Mhm.
it's difficult for a lot of people, and that's where most people give up, right? Or they let their foot off the gas and they get kind of complacent. Oh, well, I lost 5 to 10 pounds here. I can, indulge and whatever. But
Yeah.
kudos to you and what you've been able to focus on. It's been on point, it's been direct. And I think with those sacrifices here and there, still being
Mhm.
able to enjoy yourself through the
Yeah.
process too has allowed you to continue to see results and will allow you to continue to see results long term too. So that's the beautiful thing about this. But Alexis, this is incredible. I mean, again, 20 pounds in 10 weeks is an incredible feat. Like that's not an easy thing to do. Lots of people, struggle with that. And I think as a final word, any sort of recommendations or biggest things that you would recommend to someone getting started or anyone that is in this process and is struggling a little bit, maybe hit a wall, any just last minute words you'd like to add in there just to kind of, help someone out that might be struggling.
Yeah. For those who haven't started, invest in yourself. I think it's worth it. You're gonna feel so much better about yourself. And it's like you said earlier, the sacrifice is only for such a short time. The rest is just it becomes part of your lifestyle and you can do it, I promise. I think people get scared and it's okay
Mhm.
to be scared. It's you are worth the risk of overcoming that fear. And then for those that are in the process and maybe hitting that wall, don't give up. Like, I think definitely it is so much worth it to keep pushing forward. It's not just about the scale or the measurements, it's also about your mental health and eating better and working out leads to you being happier and feeling better. So I definitely like keep going. It'll be worth it in the end. That's the best piece of advice I can give.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Alexis. Again, thank you so much for your time. This, again, just the beginning of everything for you. And you've got so much more in the tank. You got so much more to accomplish, and I'm excited to see where you take it all. I'm excited to see where you're able to go. And again, it's just been incredibly inspiring. But thank you so much for just taking that time to sit down and have a little conversation with me and just share your story with everyone else in the group. And appreciate just some of the incredible feedback from me and just what you've been able to accomplish. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Alexis. Everyone, have a good one. Thank you so much for tuning into the live stream, or if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for tuning into the replay. Any questions that you have for Alexis, feel free to post them down below. We can make sure to answer some of the questions in the group. And of course, any other extra live streams or any sort of value topics you want to watch, you can definitely check those out on the pinned to featured area at the top of the Facebook group. Alexis, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.